Okay, what I'll be talking about right now is something that many pastors and people who understand the Bible know about. This subject is easily probably one of the most talked about subjects, and that is Daniel chapter 9, verses 25 through 27. And I'll read it specifically to show you guys what I'm talking about. It says, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks, that is 69 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times." So that's talking about 69 weeks of years. And 69 weeks of years is 483 years. Because it would be 483 days, but it's actually in years. And what the controversial issue is a little bit on this is, when did Artaxerxes, the ruler, give that commandment to restore and build Jerusalem again? Now, I'm going to show you what I believe and where I'm at on this timeline. The consensus is it's all very close, but it's not all exactly, not everybody exactly agrees on these things. So I believe that Artaxerxes, which was the ruler who gave the commandment to rebuild and restore, to build and restore Jerusalem, I believe that commandment went out in 456 BC. Okay, and if you count from that day into 27 AD, which would be when Jesus started his ministry at 30 years old, it would be 69 weeks. Short 1 week. And that's why they say Daniel's 70th week. They believe that there's still 7 years left. Now let me show you something else. The reason that I come to 27 AD instead of 30 AD and Jesus is 30 years old is because the consensus is that he was born about 2 to 3 BC. A lot of people think that AD or BC means before Christ and AD means something after Christ, but actually there's other meanings to that, because you would think, well, how was Jesus Christ born in 2 or 3 BC, before Christ? Well, that's not exactly what that means. So from 456 BC to 27 AD, you get 69 weeks of years, which is 483 years, leaving 1 week left. Now, this is where I believe that people go off track, is that even though they know that Jesus had a 3.5-year ministry, which is half of a 7, they don't count that as the first half of Daniel's 70th week. They just stop it right there at the 69 weeks. But what I'm saying is that that's talking about Jesus. When it talks about in Daniel chapter 9 verse 27, he will confirm the covenant for 1 week, which is 7 years. And that's what Romans 15:8 talks about. I believe that covenant is talking about the covenant between God and Israel. He confirmed that covenant in Romans 15:8. Says that he confirmed the promises made unto the fathers. And I believe that 7 years started at 27 AD, which is when Christ started his ministry, and it went to 30 AD, and then Jesus was cut off, just like Daniel 9 says, the Messiah shall be cut off. And then, after that, you start the 40 Jubilees, the 2,000 years, which is from 30 AD to 2030 AD. That's why they talk about Agenda 2030. But now to find the other 3.5 years of the 7-year period, you go to 30 AD and go back. So it would be around 27 AD. And then we get to 2029, 2030, which is the fulfillment of the Jubilees spoken about in Genesis chapter 6, verse 3. God said, "My spirit shall not always strive with man, for his years shall be 120. It's talking about Jubilees. So a Jubilee is 50 years, and 120 times 50 is 6,000 years. We also see that 6,000 year pattern in the 6 days of creation, because 2 Peter says that a day is as 1,000 years with the Lord, and 1,000 years is as a day with the Lord. So we have that pattern shown to us all out through the Bible. Also, the number 120 pops up everywhere, like in Acts, I believe chapter 1, verse 15. Talks about there was about 120 people in the upper room when the day of Pentecost happened. Interesting, it says about. God gives this little clue there, saying it doesn't have to be exactly 120 years. It says about. Also, there's other 120s in the Bible everywhere, showing us this pattern. We hear a lot about Daniel's 70th week, and a lot about how there's 7 years left, because the majority of people think that there's 7 years left because they don't know what I just showed you. The first 3.5 years taken up by Jesus, because they've been told that the Antichrist is the one who confirms the covenant. And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, how is the Antichrist going to confirm the covenant? What covenant are we talking about? And clearly all the passages are talking about covenant between God and Israel. So again, what the Antichrist will do, and the ones with the agenda, is they'll come in and they'll make people think there's 7 years left. Like there's something called the Abrahamic Accords in 2020 that was confirmed and set up. And so since they know, because they have taught it from the top down, that most people believe, very smart people even, that there's 7 years left and there's supposed to be a covenant confirmed and stuff, to counterfeit that, to make people think that, they'll do what they did, like the Abrahamic Accords and all these things on certain dates to make people think, like, and put them off on the wrong time. Again, to go over it, the commandment talked about in Daniel 9:25, I believe was given in 456 BC. And if you count 69 weeks of years, which is 483 years, you go to 27 AD, which is the beginning of Jesus' ministry at 30 years old. And then we have 1 week left, 1 week of years, 7 years instead of days. So Jesus' ministry was about 3.5 years. You have half of Daniel's week taken up right there. And then you have 2,000 years countdown to 2030. And like I said, if you take 2025 and multiply it by itself, so 20 times 25, you get 500. 500 in the Strong's Concordance Greek is Antichrist. That lands in 2025. It's almost too perfect. And then you take 2030, 20 times 30, you get 600, and you get to restore again, or to restore back. And that's exactly what Jesus does when he comes in 2030. He's the times of restoration talked about in Acts chapter 3, verses 19 and 20. The appearing of Christ, the times of restoration, he restores things in the earth. And these numbers are all patterns, and they all match up perfectly. So they're there for all of us to see. So, and this view is not commonly held, because again, the mix-up in Daniel 9:27, who confirmed what covenant? And the world has been told it's the Antichrist who confirms some type of covenant, God knows what covenant, but all the passages are referring to God and Israel. 70 weeks determined upon Israel, that's a covenant with God. And to confirm that covenant, Jesus came. And he confirmed the promises unto the fathers, which is Romans 15:8. So that is the big mix-up. That's the big toss-up. That's the big separator. This is when the Bible talks about the people who fell asleep and said, where is the promise of his coming? He is late and all this stuff. And I think that the pre-tribulation rapture, pre-7-year rapture idea is why that happens. One of the big reasons why. Because people are like, oh, well, he didn't come in 7 years, then 6 years, and 5 years, and people are saying, where's the promise of his coming? And I think that this 7-year rapture thing is definitely part of that. I think God had that in mind, for sure. So that's where I'm at in Daniel's 70th week. Actually, it's Daniel's 42 months. Because when you look in the book of Revelation, there's only 42 months accounted for. See, that's another thing. You say, okay, the book of Revelation is the last days. It tells you the past, present, future, and symbolism, but it's literalism in the dates and the times. So you don't have 7 years ever talked about in the book of Revelation. Every chapter, the chapters are like layered, so they lay on top of each other. They're running concurrent at the same time. So in Revelation chapter 12, you see the devil getting kicked out of heaven and getting 42 months till the end. Then in Revelation 13, you see the beast getting 42 months. Well, the beast is the man that the devil inhabits for 42 months. So those chapters run on top of each other concurrent. So the devil gets kicked out, enters the beast, and the 42 months is talking about the same 42 months, but you just have to put it together. The book is dimensional, and they run parallel, and they're layered, so they sit on top of each other. And that's how a lot of the book of Revelation is. So again, so tell me, since the book of Revelation, last book written, all about the end times, where is the 7 years, which is 84 months, right? It's not talked about ever. And so I don't know how people get to the point where they're at where they don't see that, especially experienced people. I think that they should have seen this a long time ago and go, wait a second, where's the 7 years? What happened to the first 3.5 years? And like I said, there you go. Jesus was the one who confirmed the covenant. He fulfilled the first 3.5. So again, that's where I'm at on that. I wanted to share that with you guys. There's a lot of information out there that is not telling you this part of it. They're telling you there's 7 years of tribulation. They're telling you that the tribulation is God's wrath, which again, I don't believe. It's called the tribulation for a reason. It's called the wrath of God for a reason. Two separate things, and they're not the same thing. And one last thing that I find really amazing is that notice how 27 AD, I believe, is the year that Jesus Christ started his ministry, confirming the covenant. And what verse is that? Daniel 9:27. That's kind of amazing to me. And I also wonder, if any of you guys want to do the math out there, if the day that Jesus got baptized in the Hebrew calendar was 9/27. That would be kind of amazing, right? A heck of a pattern. So if anybody wants to do the mathematics, the studying, go for it. But 27 AD, Daniel 9:27, confirmed the covenant. 30 AD, he was cut off. And like I said in the whole video, we go 2,000 years from there, 40 Jubilees, 2030. And the last thing is that in the movie, you know how they've been telling us all these truths in the movies. The movie The Terminator, where John Connor fights the resistance, when John Connor fights with the resistance against AI, which is Skynet, is 2029. I mean, you can't even make these things up. So they definitely know the calendar. So, the 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 rapture, the people who are resurrected from the dead first, that's a physical thing. But Paul also mentions the spiritual resurrections from the death to life when we get saved in Jesus. So if he and the others look at it out there like that, I could say, yeah, I can see how that can work. But 3 physical raptures, it's not in the Bible. It's not biblical to me. To do that, we have to speculate. In other words, when we see in Revelation chapter 4, verses 1, 2, and I believe 3, where I believe it's John who gets raptured up with the voice like a trumpet, we have to speculate and say, okay, well, that's a picture of the rapture of the church, right? To use that and to extrapolate it into an entire rapture for the entire church. That's simply speculation on that. That's man's interpretation on that. It doesn't literally say that we will be raptured there, that is a picture and a type and a shadow of the church being raptured. So in order to say there's 3 raptures, you have to speculate. You have to extrapolate things, make them say things that they don't. And because we all know that there's one physical rapture in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. So that's the way I see that. Again, I don't put anybody down for searching diligently, honestly. But I sincerely believe that a pre-7-year rapture is sincerely wrong.
Now you can take a look at it, slow down. You can just see exactly. Look at how bright this one is tonight. The wheels within the wheels. And look in the middle, you can even see the angel. He's in the middle of the wheels. Read Ezekiel chapter 1 in the King James Bible to understand what you're looking at. This angel was filmed with my Nikon P900 Coolpix camera for under $600 retail. The Bible is true when it says that the angels are inside the firmament, the solid thing that God put above this earth. This is true biblical cosmology. We are in an enclosed system, and there are truly angels right above us. Look at the picture. It is a womb. The word womb means matrix. We are in the womb, growing as sons of God.
It may be hard to see tonight, but we are all standing under a glass ceiling right now.
The pitcher, steroid Santa Claus, kicks and deals. It's a long fly ball going back. And the ball shatters the sky, bringing the ocean itself down into the stadium. Oh, Simpson just broke this dream's reality wide open.
If anybody feels led to leave a donation to help out with things, it would be greatly appreciated. This is my name on Cash App, RBS38. Thank you guys all for listening, and God bless.